Good evening. Welcome to the 12-Man Podcast live on Facebook, TalkSport, part of the Fan Network, on the Red, on Spotify, Amazon, Deezer, every other place you can imagine. You can get your podcast to listen to on a weekly basis. You've got me, Steve Jackson. I'm your host for the evening. Good to see John Donovan with us. Evening, John Don.
Now then, how are you doing?
Not bad. Injury update. How's the knee?
I had my first physio appointment today. I was given a series of exercises to help stretch a little bit further and give me a bit more flexibility. So, yeah, progress is being made, so I'm happy.
I hope the physio wasn't the same one that's at the Borough that's been in there for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Because he's not
Sammy Abiobi's physio.
I was going to say, did you meet Sammy in the physio room? No, it's good. It's good that you're starting to move forward. Happy days. We'll see John Cutler with us. Evening, Cuts.
Evening.
Recovered from Friday?
Yeah.
We all saw you. and we've got Mr. Jamie Dalgana with us. Evening, Dally.
How are we doing? I'm like, as soon as it's Easter, I thought I'd resurrect and show me face.
Well, I can't wait for the wallpaper to fall down. That really will finish it up.
Yeah. Just to let the listeners know, Dally's in the middle of decorating wallpaper, and so for those who can see us, if Dally disappears, he needs stronger adhesive.
Yeah, too true.
So we're going to talk the Easter schedule. 3 points from 2 games. We all said we needed 4 at minimum. We didn't get it. Where does that leave us? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Norwich, last home game of the season, retro shirt day. So we'll give you a bit more information about that. Obviously, they've got a new man in charge because of what happened today as well. In between that, we'll talk about Michael Carrick. Is the man starting to feel the pressure? Has the pressure finally got to the man that's won everything? We'll go into it. We'll get stuck into it also. We'll start with Friday. So let's start on an upbeat. John, I'll start with you. Because obviously you were hoping to be with us, but you weren't with us, which is such a shame because I was actually hoping to have to carry up them steps, but never mind. 2-1 win at home to Plymouth, which someone did predict right. Cut. Well done. I won't talk about your prediction from Monday. Obviously Friday, it was very. I feel like Plymouth dragged us down to their level without being harsh to them. They put us into a dogfight, and we were suckers, and we were sucked into it. Unfortunately, got out of jail. Penalty in the last minute. Was it a penalty? I thought the other one was more of a penalty than that when Whittaker was tucked down. But give us your takes on what you saw of the game when you were sat in your comfy armchair.
Yeah, I was pleased that we were unchanged. I was happy with the team. We made a bright start. Obviously, got ourselves an early goal. And then, as so often happens, we give away a stupid goal. And after that, I thought Plymouth were quite lively. We needed Travis to be alert at times. So the first half, despite our bright start, I thought was fairly even. We might have dominated possession and probably had more shots at goal than them. But I didn't feel, that we capitalised on our early start, and even when we were pegged back, I didn't think we took the game enough to them. So yeah, 1-1 at half time, and I'll let the other lads on the pod talk about the first half.
Yeah, Cuts, I'll come to you. Obviously, the goal we scored. We'll start with the goal we scored. Obviously, the ball in behind to Conway made the run off the last man. Perfectly timed run. Unlucky, hit the post, but it is as was in the right position to tap the ball in. That's the type of stuff we've been wanting to see from Conway, isn't it? He's been moving way too far to the left for my liking, or to the right. We want him in the middle of the goal because he showed on Friday that's exactly what he can do. He can get him behind defences and cause problems.
Yeah, I think when he was a bit unlucky not to score himself, and it would have been a great finish had he scored. But like we've said, luckily Finn was on hand to tap it in against this former team, and it was a good start. Like you say, the build-up play around the goal was good, and we were all open. We were going to go on from there.
But Dally, come to you. Another mishap at the back. People have said it's Howson's pass back to Morris. People have said Morris has took his time and took a heavy touch. What was your take on the goal?
Just sums the season up, doesn't it? Just sums the defensive frailties up, I think, at the club. Individual mistakes, again, costing us. You know, this whole playing out from the back and tippy-tappy, it's good when you've got the players to do it, that can do it consistently. But there's only been Man City, Liverpool, them types of teams who can. But we're persistent on it. You know, Ange Carrick will not change the way he plays football. So, you know, it was a ridiculous goal to give away. You've got the lead. You looked at the teams, the fixtures in that weekend. Sorry, on that day, and we were playing bottom of the league, and all the others were playing each other. And you think, go on then, you know, a couple of goals will help the goal difference. That goal difference could be the difference. You know, it looks as though it could be the difference. You know, it's another point on the board effectively. But again, stupid mistakes at the back, and the ball ends up at the back of the net.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't. It's another goal where we can look back, which we will look back in a few weeks when we do our season review and say, you know, there's another goal we can see. We were the masters of our own downfall. We caused it. It wasn't a good goal. It wasn't anything special. It was an absolute shambles. Again, heavy touch. I just don't get why Howson didn't hoof it up. That's the bit that annoyed me. Just hoof up the pitch. You know, you had a person in front of you, a player to your left. Just hoof it. You know, you're under pressure. Just get rid. But we didn't. As you can see, we went into half time. Lots of seagulls about us that weren't happy. Josh was one of them. He was absolutely fuming behind me. But rightfully so, to be quite honest. I say we didn't look like we were going to go in at half time leading. We weren't the better team. But right, second half, John Don, we made quite a few chances. We really got stuck into them. Yes, they were still dangerous on the counter. Yes, we could have still conceded. You know, there was a couple of chances that Ryan Hardy had. He should have tucked away. One, he blazed over the crossbar, which is about 6 yards out. I thought he should have scored. But we'll fast forward it. Whittaker, was it a penalty? Yes or no?
No. I just think there might have been the slightest of contact, but I just think the way he dramatised the fall made the referee's mind up. I saw it from several angles, obviously, because I was sat at home, and some angles looked more blatant that it was a theatrical dive than others. But no, I don't think it was. That was a penalty. But saying that, you know, we had a handball that wasn't given. Now it was ball to hand, but I know the rules have slightly changed, and I don't think it stopped our progress. But that was a handball, and then obviously we had the one in stoppage time. But we dominated the second half possession wise, but you know, I really want us to sort of like I want us as fans to feel like a goal is coming. You know, I want us to sort of crank the pressure up as the game goes on, and I think it helps to the atmosphere, to the excitement. You get involved if you think we are piling the pressure on here, and it's going to come eventually. I didn't see that on Friday. Yes, we did score, and yes, we did get the winner, but it was rather fortunate. And like everybody else, I welcomed it because it was a vital win. But I just want us to be knocking on the door and absolutely bombarding teams. That's what I want to see. But yeah, we got over the line, but only just.
Yeah, it was only just. I say that's probably the worrying thing, isn't it, Cut? That's the type of game we sat here last Monday and said we should be beating teams like that comfortably. They're bottom of the league for the reason. It's not a case of, as Woody put it awfully one year, the table's lying. It doesn't lie after 40, 42 games. You know what I mean? It is what it is at that point. But I just felt. Go on.
Go on. I was just going to say, I mean, you can say about beating teams comfortably in that the week before they'd beat Sheffield United, who were going for top 2 at that time. And I keep saying, and I've said it a million times, no game's easy in this league. It's about how the players put the effort in and professionalism and all that kind of thing. You can go on about mistakes we're making at the back. Well, that seemed to have dried up since Howson had come back in. That was just a mistake. But I think it's about being professional and everything's on the line. We knew what a big game it was, and it reminded me a little bit of under Carrick when we got a last-minute goal. I wasn't really bothered about the performance and whether it was a penalty, whether we deserved it or not. I couldn't care less. It was about the 3 points. And at the end of the game, I just thought, last-minute goal, the players are going to be on cloud 9 in that changing room. You'd imagine it would have been buzzing when they got in and seen some of the results, where we were, what chances we've got. And I know we're going to talk about this later, but I thought it could have turned our season round and give us a massive, massive boost. Like I say, last-minute goals do that to teams, and like we'll talk about later. But yeah, at the time I was buzzing. I didn't care about the performance really.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was about to say. Performances don't matter at this point of the season. It's about getting the points on the board. We've alluded to that a few times now. But Dally, when you watch it back, it's a very soft penalty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I don't know. In real time, I thought it was a penalty from where I was. We were. I think it depends on where you look at it from. You can slow things down. How many times you watch the Premier League and the slow challenges down and the look, that doesn't look like there's a lot in it, but you put it in real time. We had 2 shouts earlier on. Obviously, John's got to see, the different angles. I thought the first Morgan Whittaker one was probably. I don't know. I was on the fence with that one. I didn't think it was handball. And then I think when we got a third one, I think you probably got a referee under a bit of pressure to the last minute. He's turned 2 down from his angle. Obviously, you can see the arm being stretched out, and Conway goes down. But he will take him.
No, of course you would. I mean, to be fair, I think we bought that penalty a little bit. I saw it a bit last night with Burnley, because Burnley got denied a Stonewall penalty, and Brownhill was in the referee's face, and literally, within 2 minutes, got a penalty. Borough did that with the referee. They were screaming when Whittaker went down. So you felt any opportunity he's going to get, he's obviously thinking, I'm going to. He shouldn't, obviously. I'm going to even this up, and I'm going to give him a penalty. But to get 3 points, massive relief, huge relief. You felt in the stage it was massively important because Bristol City won, Coventry won. It was huge. It felt huge. Someone could clip that, couldn't they? And you thought, like I'm with you, Cut. You go into Monday's game, you think, right, brush that off, move on, and we kick into a game that's even bigger now. It's sold out away ends behind the goal, 4,000 Borough fans. We went exactly how you want us to go. You earn the shirt, you keep it. We went unchanged.
Can I just go back to the? No. Can I just go back to the penalty, Steve?
Yeah, go on.
I mean, I was just saying it was stupid by the Plymouth player.
Oh, gotcha. Absolutely
stupid at that time of the game. He got himself a red card, so he's now suspended for the rest of the season. Is it straight red? Is it 3?
I think it's.
Oh, is it just 1?
I think it's just 1 at this point of the season.
Is it 2 yellows? Right. Okay. Yeah, but he's hampered the whole team, and the fan base there by doing something stupid, and he
Captain
handed
as well.
us 3 points. It took a lot of bottle to convert that penalty with such pressure on him. But Conway done well, and we'll talk in the next few minutes about how Conway didn't do so well. But it was vital. It gave us a 3 points, which is just what we need. Like John says, performances don't really matter. It's about points all day long. Yeah, and if we could marry it with a positive performance, we're all happy. But yeah, it was the best Philip we could have had for Monday and our trip to Hillsborough. You know, what more could we ask for?
Exactly. We said just keeping the race. That's all you got to do at this point in the season, keeping the race. The other two were at home as well. We did exactly that. You know, we were hoping for a little bit of a slip up. We didn't get that. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit in a while about what the other two did do on Monday. But yeah, we were still well in the race because at 92 minutes for me we weren't 5 points off 6. I thought we're struggling now. We really are struggling. But we were still in there. So right, we'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday. I have just sent a message to Craig Johns. Craig Johns is going to pop on in the next few minutes to talk to us about Sheffield Wednesday as well, and Michael Carrick. So keep tuned in for that. So obviously, Cuts was happy with the team for Monday. John, were you happy with it as well?
Yeah. I thought it was a team. That could have done a job. You know, we all know the trouble that Sheffield Wednesday are currently in. Staff not getting paid, without a win at home since January the 1st. The manager rounding on his players after the previous defeat at Stoke. The fans unhappy. Yeah. We'd gone there with a last minute winner, which kept our noses in the race. You know, it should have been a great time to go there, and an unchanged team. Yeah, I had a lot of confidence. I was nervy because I knew what was on the game, how it was so vitally important, but I was still confident that we would have got the result.
Yeah, I was as well. I had no problems with the team that came out at 2:00 yesterday. I thought, yeah, they've all learned to keep that shirt, keep themselves in the 11. Were you the same, Dally?
Yeah, I think there wasn't really much more that you could have changed. To be fair, was there? I think, and they won the game the week that the Friday before. So yeah, I was what I was expecting. To be fair.
Yeah, it was me. The only thing I was surprised about, I didn't expect to see his name. Darragh Lenihan back on the bench. Mm-hmm. Massive boost for me. I know, Coach, you're a big fan of Darragh Lenihan. Even though he's on the bench, he's probably just on the bench for numbers' sake. I don't think he's fully up to jumping it. But even for experience-wise and a bit of a voice in the dressing room, that's massive for the team, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've massively missed Darragh this season. I think when all of our centre-halves are fully fit, I think he's the best proper defender we've got. And not only that, he's a leader. He's a bit of a talker on the pitch, and we've mentioned every single week and said it in the stands that we don't really have leaders. You've got Johnny who leads by example, but I think Darragh's the biggest shouter in that squad. And for me, he's a far better defender than the other centre-halves. I know it's easy saying that because we haven't been able to defend for Toppy this season. But yeah, he's a massive boost to have back, and he's a player that if we don't manage to go up this season, if we get him fully fit, if he can play the bulk of next season, I think he'll be the number one name for centre half on that sheet. So it's good to see him come back. He's had a serious injury, been a long road for him, and yeah, good to see him back.
Yeah, it's mega seeing him back. He's a leader, like you said. He's got the experience. He's got the voice in the dressing room that's going to rally the boys. especially the younger ones that need a bit of a G up, not quite as experienced as the ones around them. So yeah, I was buzzing to see him back, even if he's not going to get involved. But right, let's get stuck in this game. So you mentioned the good things that he did against Plymouth, JD. I'll stick with the good things because he was part of the goal, wasn't he, for that we scored. You see, we nicked the ball off their defence. Whittaker played it inside. Nice little play to, was it to Conway? Who then played it, or he got played out to Finazaz. But the touch and the finish, it was a great start. We say first 10 minutes, you get a goal like that. Exactly the start you want, especially after the slow start that we did make.
Yeah, ideal. Again, it wasn't as quick as Blackburn, but it was as important. Really, from that point, after that well-worked and superbly finished goal, we should have gone on to get ourselves a much more comfortable lead. But we failed to do that in the first half. I know their keeper made some great saves. I think the one from Force after the penalty was a fantastic save because he struck it really well. But yeah, that was the opportunity then to take the game and really sort of, like we did at Blackburn, take the game, get a bit of a more comfortable lead, and then try and control the game and see it out. But we failed to do it on this occasion.
Yeah, you're right, because it was another club that was a bit in discontent. Another one that wasn't quite happy with the owners. And it was quite ironic they were doing their turnaround at 10 minutes. As soon as they turned around, Finazaz slotted the ball in the back of the net, so they all missed the goal themselves. But before I move on to the penalty, as people will see on Facebook and YouTube, Mr. Craig Johns has finally joined us. He's woke up. Evening, Craig. You all right?
Evening, lads. Sorry about that.
Are we doing all right?
Must have been a big tea.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, spent the weekend in Birmingham, having a nice Easter weekend off, and honestly, 2 days of drinking. That's it. I'm not good at that now. I'm done. I'm knackered.
Well, you've joined at about the right time because we're going to talk about we're talking about Sheffield Wednesday now. Were you at Hillsborough or are you still in Birmingham?
No, yeah. So I went to Hillsborough from Birmingham. Yeah, I had the Saturday and Sunday in Birmingham, and then unfortunately went to Hillsborough.
So we've just obviously talked about the first goal, but I just want to move back a little bit to the team because we mentioned it. How surprised were you when you saw Darrell Lenihan's name mentioned? Was it an inkling that he was close to coming back, or was it just, oh look, there's Lenihan's name?
Yeah, kind of in the middle, if you like. There was a hint a couple of weeks ago in one of the press conferences that at some point he would kind of just be there again, but there wasn't really, a clear indication of when that would be. So you were just waiting game by game to see the team and expecting that at some point his name would be there. And we asked Michael Carrick about it after, and he's still not fully training. He said he's kind of joining in again as and when he can, but they're kind of taking it lightly for now. And it's it's just a case now of kind of him getting there and trying to build up to be in full training again. But I think more with next season, pre-season, and then next season in mind. When I asked Michael Carrick about that specifically, he kind of said, realistically, it's going to be difficult now with, the 2 games that are left and how important they are. And then hopefully 2 or 3 more after that are going to be so significant as well. Realistically, it's going to be really difficult to get Darrell Lenihan on the pitch this season. So just having him in the squad, having him batting around the group is a kind of little, if you like, motivation and a little boost for him after what's almost 18 months out now. But yeah, I think pre-season and next season more is the expectation for him and the kind of, if you like, the end goal.
Yeah, definitely. We were just saying there, even if, like you just said there, he's not quite ready to get back into his boots and start playing again. Just the voice in the dressing room is massive. They say just a bit of experience, a bit of leadership in there, which we've been absolutely dying for. all season. No, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you're on, actually, because I'll keep you in for a little bit later, because I want to mention about his press conference and how he spoke to the press, because it's all been spoke about. So, yes, we'll have a little chat about that, especially his head-to-head with Mark Drury. So, yeah, we'll have a little chat about that. But we'll come to the penalty cuts. Stonewall penalty. I'm not even going to ask you if you think it was a penalty or not. It's a penalty. At the end of the day, Ingle City took him down. For me, it was a penalty. Judging by your face,
I didn't think it was a penalty.
Did you not?
I thought Hayden Hackney thought he was the British Bulldog, pulling a wrestling move on him. I didn't think it was a penalty. I might have had a couple of pints, but I didn't think it was a penalty at all. I thought in real time, maybe it looked like one, but when you look at the replay, I thought Hackney had more of the defender.
I agree.
I thought it was
I agree with Jamie. I always look and think, if that had been given against us, what would I have been thinking? I'd have been fuming if that had been given against us. I don't think it was a Stonewall penalty at all. But again, I'll take it.
Yeah, and then
Wish you had.
I was just about to say, JD, you mentioned the good penalty that he took against Plymouth. I thought he gave away where he was going a little bit too soon, because he looked to his left, and that's exactly where he put it. It's like the keeper knew where he was putting it. And unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest penalty at all, was it?
Well, any penalty that gets saved, you can say is not a good penalty. But Danny Rowe mentioned it. That was a turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Their fans really sort of perked up after that.
It wasn't just the penalty. It was the follow up, wasn't it? Because obviously, keeper's pulled off a good double save. In all fairness to him.
Yeah.
And then Finizaz gets obviously the ball rolls out to Finizaz, who's got 2-3 players running towards him, and you've got Aidan Morris stood in the middle of the goal screaming for it, and a little bit of composure.
Yeah, I thought that.
Which he's the one player in the team who, I've been quite critical of him in the past, but he's probably the one player you think who'd have that composure to spot that. But obviously he didn't. They get it clear. And you're right, it turns on that. The game turns on that.
Yeah,
football.
It was just like at Norwich. Yeah, it was crucial part of the game. We had a bigger lead at Norwich, obviously, but it was 2-0 then, and you would think that we would sort of go on to control the game a little bit like Blackburn away, but it wasn't to be. And, we know how the rest of the game pans out.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the second half, because Sheffield Wednesday come out, obviously all guns blazing, obviously given both barrels by Danny Roll again. We didn't seem to turn up second half. We really didn't. We were still sat in the changing rooms when the goal went in. I mean, the equaliser was so poor, because there was no one tracking Josh Windass at the back post. It was too easy for him just to walk around and tap it in. But the crucial thing, Craig, I'm going to ask you this question, because obviously, we're stood in the stands, in away ends, home ends, whatever it may be. Do you sit in the press box, and when you get to a certain point in the second half, you think, why is he not changing it yet? Why is he not changing it? And then when he does change it, do you think the same as us and think, what's he doing?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately we're fans as well. We're viewing the game in exactly the same way you are. And, we've seen it too many times this season, haven't we? Borough ahead in the game, but taking a slender lead into half-time. Opposition managers make changes, completely change the game. And there's no reaction from Carrick or Borough. I don't think it's all on Michael Carrick. I feel ultimately the players have a degree of responsibility there as well.
Mm-hmm.
The opposition manager can make tactical changes and what have you, but ultimately there should be an onus on the players as well to react to that and get the grip of it again. And for whatever reason they're not, Michael Carrick doesn't make the necessary changes, and time again we see Borough just go under when a bit of pressure's put on them. And it was just a same old story yesterday, wasn't it, against Sheffield Wednesday? How many times have we seen that? And it is just so frustrating.
The number of points, number of points from a winning position that we've lost, it's criminal, really. I know all teams in the division can say that to a certain extent they'll have done the same thing, but it just seems Borough do it far more frequently. And like I say, the number of points, number of extra points, we only need 4 or 5, and we're in 5th in the league, you know. But we've thrown away 3 or 4 times that amount.
It's not just games we've thrown away, though, is it? It's not just games we've thrown away, lads, because it's, you mentioned there, Craig, about it's times when there's 1 goal in it, or we've got a slender lead, but there's been so many times where it's 0-0, and you get to the 65th minute, and they've already made 2 changes, and I know what you're saying that it should be down to some of the players as well. This is the weakest team I've ever known. I tell you what, I struggle to think of a weaker team that we've had in mentality of player. There's no leader out there. It's took us to have Johnny Howson playing at centre half for us to start tightening things up. And Johnny Howson really is the only player I look at this club who tries to take control. Give you an example. When we were going through a bit of a barren run, and he wasn't playing, the first game he came back, I was in the stands, and I'm watching. None of the players went out to warm up until he was at the front, until he got them all in the tunnel, and they all went out together. You watch him, he gets them all, they all go out together, and he takes lead.
Yeah.
But you say it's not all on Carrick. A lot of it is, and he's done well to a certain extent. But you look at Burnley got promoted yesterday. They've conceded less goals than we've lost this season. They've conceded 15 goals and we've lost 17 games.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of those games where at 0-0 going into 65, 70 minutes, he has to make the changes to be brave and go and win games, and he hasn't. And that's what's killed us.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that whatsoever. When I say it, I think ultimately the players have got a shoulder responsibility, because I think, you look at a game like Sheffield Wednesday and on Monday yesterday, and, they missed the penalty, and as Danny Rose says, that changes the game. Well, that's on the players ultimately, because they're not managing the moments. They're not, and like you say, you're right. Johnny Howson's got that bit of experience, and he does try and get the rest through those moments. But to lose the grip on a game so much as they do, because a little moment like that goes against them, it's not right. And it's the players have got to shoulder that side of it. But completely, I take your point. Like Michael Carrick's got a big role in that as well. He doesn't seem to react quickly enough to when opposition managers make changes in games, when even if the opposition manager doesn't make a change, but just the momentum of the game generally switches. You're looking towards Michael Carrick as the head coach to maybe tweak something. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be personnel, because yesterday, for example, I look at the bench and I think, what might he have changed there? What could he have? He brought Bergzog on, and that had absolutely no impact. His only other attacking potential change would have been Iheanacho, and he's not exactly one to inspire change at the moment, is he? So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, what might he have changed? I know there's the potential tactical kind of completely different formation change. There's times when I watch Borough and think they've been overrun in midfield, get another midfielder on and things like that. But, Carrick doesn't do that ultimately. That's not Carrick's way. So, so there's responsibility on Carrick, absolutely, because I think there's times where he is too reactionary and he could be a bit more proactive in recognising the flip of momentum of games and making changes that positively influence that in Borough's favour, which I don't think he does. I was going to say often enough, but probably not at all, really. But yeah, I think there is still some responsibility there on the players, because I think they should react better in moments. They're so good at starting games and kind of asserting control and making good starting game, getting themselves 1-0 up. But, the minute another team then goes at them a bit, ups the tempo, or changes something, they just crumble. And it's, it's a soft underbelly. We've spoken about it all season. They've got such a soft underbelly.
You think back a few years and people love him or hate him, and I like to meet Tony Pulis, and I love the football that we played going forward under Carrick. But the reason I'm coming back to Tony Pulis is I remember when we played at Hillsborough a few years ago, and there was almost a rugby scrum on the line to keep that ball out the net, and just the passion to keep the ball out of the net. I don't see that with us. We just, honestly, it's the weakest team that you just feel any time a team goes forward, it's not necessarily that they're going to break us down. It's who's going to make a mistake.
Well, we did try to recreate it like Phoenix from the Flame style, didn't we, in the last minutes? But we didn't have Adam Clayton there to sort of lay down and head it off the line, you know. Yeah, such a vital, important game where everything was going our way. The fans knew that. I mean, I could hear it on TV. Even the fans, you could hear when the score was coming through. The fans were sort of like being lifted by Plymouth taking the lead, and by Luton taking the lead. And I'm sorry, the players need to react to it. We need to have more desire. As I said earlier, you know, them players, they haven't been paid. They've got nothing to play for. And the managers just sort of ripped them to pieces for the last performance. We had so much to play for, so much at stake, and everything was stacked in our favour. And we were still slow, soft, and it beggars belief. When are we going to fight for what we want? You know, rather than just being soft touches.
But it goes back to, though, like for me, it goes back to he's so laid back, Carrick. Even the comments before the Plymouth game, it's not a must-win game. No, it is. You look at the result, you look at the fixtures that weekend, it is a must-win game if you've got serious intentions of going up. We didn't need to win. Nah. I don't know. He's just too laid back. Have a bit of passion about it. You're 3 games at that point away, 3-4 games away from the end of the season, with a chance of the playoffs. Nah, you don't need to win, lads. It's not a must-win game. No, get him told. You've got to go and put a team at the sword.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And Craig, this might be a tough question for you to answer. So I know we're skipping it a little bit, right? But because he's mentioned that, in the last 3 weeks, he's come out and said things in the press that have absolutely bamboozled me. He said the thing about Iheanacho, then proceeded to drop him on the Saturday, when you would think after you've backed a player like that, he'll be busting a gut to score a goal and prove you're right. Millwall away, he says we played really, really well in the first half. Couldn't understand that. Then on Saturday, he's tetchy. And Friday's game, to say it's not a must-win game. Well, if you're saying that in the dressing rooms, I'm not going to bust the gut for you either. Because if they're not must-win games at this stage of the season, what's he saying to them in there? And then if they're reading stuff like this in the press, which they're probably not, to be fair, but he's taking the fans as idiots. Some of the things he's saying are absolutely crackers. Is it pressure getting to him? Because he's never been like this in the press, saying stupid things like that in the 3 years he's been here, 2.5 years. But in the last month, I think he's losing the plot, or he thinks none of us are watching the same game.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think there's an element of him trying to, you know, kind of, if you like, take the pressure off his expectations. I don't know what the right way of saying it is, but I think his delivery's been very clumsy. I think that's one way of putting it. You know, when he was making the must-win point ahead of Plymouth, wasn't it? Ahead of Plymouth. He clarified that then after the Plymouth win and kind of said, you know, we understand the importance of it. The point I was trying to make was, you know, we don't necessarily need to win if Coventry or whatever don't win. And, you know, like I say, I don't agree with him. It's clumsy the way he's delivered it, but that's what he's trying to say is that, you know, when you think of must win, if they don't win, it's over. And that wasn't necessarily the case. Mathematically, it wouldn't have been. But I think we all know that now, that, you know, that I guess that point was proven on Monday. You know, they didn't win at Sheffield Wednesday, but it isn't over. I know it's hard to take much positivity. It's hard to feel. It's it's not over. It's hard to feel optimistic about Borough's chances, but mathematically they're still in it. And actually, you look, Coventry have got to go to Luton, who've just beaten Bristol City. They're really good at home. Then Borough play Coventry away, and again, it's hard to be optimistic about that game at Coventry. But ultimately, it's still in Borough's hands, even though they lost. So I get his point and what he was trying to say, but I just think it's clumsy. And like you say, it's not inspiring. Fans don't want to hear it. Fans don't want to hear it's not must win. At this stage of the season, fans want to be fired up. Fans want to believe that he's firing the players up because, ultimately, we talked about the way Borough play. It's Borough's, style of play is uninspiring. And it feels like that's, coming from the head coach, whose personality at times can be quite uninspiring, if we're being brutally honest. It feels, very connected to one another.
Whatever he said before the Blackburn game, the first 15 minutes of Blackburn, we were unreal. Like, repeat that. Just show a bit of passion. It is so frustrating, isn't it? Because I don't know what you guys think, but if, say, we pulled it out the bag and we got the results to get us into it, can you look at a team and say we can do them over 2 legs? Because I'm looking and I scratch my head and think, I don't know. Like, would we have the momentum and would we have the characters in the team? I think that's what it boils down to for me.
Jamie, we can't do it over 2 halves. We can't do a game over 2 halves. So
that's what I mean.
The one thing I would say on all the chat about Carrick is obviously, he says what he says in the press, but I think the one thing that we should always remember and always appreciate is that what he does say in the press isn't always going to be what he says in the dressing room. And I think there's been hints at that over, his whole time at the club. And I think often you get a better reflection of possibly what's really said in the dressing room when you speak to the players. So Carrick will maybe say one thing in the press and then you'll speak to a player and the player will tell you what Carrick actually said in the dressing room. And quite often it's very different. And, we've heard a few players over the kind of couple of years he's been here now say that there is another side to him that we don't often see. I think that's just always going to be Carrick's nature, whether we like to hear it as fans or not. I don't think he's ever going to be the type to hammer them in the press, but I do think there's a happy medium that he doesn't always hit. And I think, case an example after Monday's game there, where he's, almost, flabbergasted at the fact that we're not feeling positive after a defeat at Sheffield Wednesday. And, for all the reasons JD highlighted of why Middlesbrough should have quite comfortably won at Sheffield Wednesday. And he can't quite believe that the questions at him are about, negativity and about a feeling of frustration. And he's questioning, how can you not be positive with 2 games to go and being in that position? To me, there's a happy medium where, again, it comes back to perhaps clumsy delivery because, he's looking at it and thinking, well, nothing has changed. But I'm looking at it and thinking that's precisely the problem. Nothing has changed when it should have changed. It was right in Borough's hands and you threw it away.
Yeah, everything could have changed. It was the ultimate. The ultimate chance. I've been frustrated over so many games this season, but that 45 minutes, that second 45 minutes was like having a winning lottery ticket blow away from your hand and never to be seen again. It was such a huge loss. And we haven't talked about the second goal yet, but that was just ridiculous, an absolutely clumsy, farcical goal to give away. And then we still had the chance right at the end, 2 chances right at the end to get something out of the game. And we failed them. It's probably the lowest point this season for me because I thought with the other results going our way, we had that chance to go back into the playoff position, and we absolutely we squandered it. We didn't fight for it. We just handed it, threw it away. Terrible.
You talk there, Craig, about him not coming out and hammering players. So in response to that question on tees, all he had to do was say, I can't speak for the players, but I can tell you, I think we're still in it. I'm fighting. I still believe we can do it. That's not criticising the players, but rather than saying, I can't believe you've asked that question, where the 4,000 fans who travelled there and everybody who's watched it on the television will have had exactly the same question that Mark Drury asked him. So that's all he had to say is say where he can come from. I can't speak for the players, but for me, 100% convinced we can still do it. And the fight is in me. That's all he had to say. He didn't have to get all narky about it. I think it all boils down to pressure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I genuinely think you're right. I think he has felt it, and I think there's been a noticeable change in him probably since Watford, wasn't it? Going back to Watford when he really came under pressure, and I can remember the press conference after the Watford win, and I genuinely felt leaving that room that he felt he was done and he was finished. And there was a bit of a change. Obviously, Steve Gibson come out and backed him, and the club backed him at that point. And I remember the next press conference, he come with a bit of fight, and there was that. I'd asked him, how he felt about Steve Gibson backing him and whether he appreciated it. And it was quite a feisty response where he said it would be, what was it? I can't remember the exact wording now, but to the kind of tune of it would be ridiculous for me to need that backing. I backed myself, and there was a bit of fight in him then, and then there was a bit of kind of more colour from him in the weeks ahead, a bit of type of stuff that you don't normally get from him, which was quite nice. And I thought, oh, this is going to change. And then, we've got to this stage of the season where it's, as you say, the pressure's on. And I think he's just getting a bit clumsy with his delivery of stuff. I think, as you say, I think that answer, we obviously, I don't know if you know how it works, but obviously post-match tees do their own stuff. Pitch side, and then he comes up to the press room and does one with the written press. Myself and Dom Shaw at the Northern Echo are in that room there. So me and Dom don't know what's happened in the Tees interview until we get out of the ground. I listened to the Tees interview once I got back in the car and started my drive home, and I was like, I couldn't believe what he how he'd reacted to that last question. It seems a pretty straightforward and easy answer to get. To answer it in the way he did just feels unsatisfactory, from a fan perspective.
Well, yeah, immediately after the game, I don't think there was very many Borough fans feeling positive. We all felt gutted that we missed such bigger chance. On reflection, yeah, nothing's changed. We win 2 games and we're in the playoffs. But it's just the fact that he doesn't understand how much of an opportunity that a win at Sheffield Wednesday would have given us. I just think it was a bit, yeah. I won't even call it clumsy. He just needs to see that fans are not immediately going to be feeling positive after being in the lead and losing that game the way we did.
No, he's absolutely right. I just sat quiet and just let you go there. He's asked everything I ever wanted, so I just let you go. But no, I felt disappointed at full time. But hearing what he said to Mark Drury, and then to read what he said in the post-match presser to the written press as well, I'm a bit like Cuts. I don't want him to, be a screaming and shouting manager because it's clearly not his style. But it doesn't. He seemed to bite back a little bit of the questions, like he was up against the wall. He was like he was a bit defending himself a bit more than he should have been. I mean, the answer he gave when the situation doesn't change. Well, it did 15 minutes ago. If he'd have kept it even 1-1 and not thought, I'll change it and put Dale Fry on the pitch. And change the whole shape of the team, which absolutely threw us because we were all over the shop. Decisions like that, he's done it all. He's done it all since Christmas. For me, he's done it since Christmas. I feel like he's hitting the pressure a bit too much, which is really weird because as a football player, he won everything. He won absolutely everything as a footballer, so he should know what pressure is. Yeah, we are still in it. He is right when he says that, and that's probably his winning mentality. He probably gets that from the Fergie. 2 wins and we are in it. But it's not what you want to hear as a fan. You want to hear exactly what Cuts says. Do I still believe? Yeah, I do. Do I still want it? Yeah, I do. Do I believe them boys will do it? Yeah, I do. No, I can't believe you're talking like this. Well, why can't we talk like that? We pay the money. We know what we see. I don't get it. Go on, coach.
But to say the situation hasn't changed that's a load of nonsense as well. It's the difference between us going to Coventry and maybe needing a point and they have to win, and us going to Coventry and us having to win and a point will do for them. So again, that's a nonsense statement. Absolute piffle for me.
Exactly. First half, we went in at 1-0 up. If we'd just kept that 1-0 lead, just stuck strong, even if you really want to play devil's advocate and say we got that second goal and made it 2-0, both of the sides lost 3-1. We'd have been level on points and in. We'd have gone from needing 6 points from the last 2 games to needing 4.
Do you know? I'll jump in still. I'm gonna jump in, mate. I don't mind, but I'm gonna say we've all been quite critical of Carrick there, and me. I've definitely thrown me critics out there. But what I would say is one thing I do find myself arguing myself with is the league this year. If you look at the bottom, you've got Luton and Derby on like 43 points, something ridiculous. The amount of points that the teams down the lower end of the league have picked up. But then you look at Carrick and you think, if we win the next 2 games, I think we finish on 69 points. So in 3 consecutive seasons, forgive me, I think first season we maybe finished on 75 points, then 69, 70 points in the second season, and then it will be the same amount of points. But you look at last season, look, Morgan Rogers, best bit of business I think we've done. Yeah, you can say we could have got more, but who would have known how far he would have gone? But he was a big part of our team, and he lost him in the January transfer window. Selling Latia Laugh this season in the January transfer window is possibly the most balmy bit of business I think we've ever done. I think you look at it and the gamble you could have played on it. You're on double figures, son, at Christmas. Stick with us. The Premier League team will come in for you if we don't go up. If we do go up, we'll backdate your money. But I think even for what we sold him for, and at that point we had 2 strikers on double figures or going on to double figures. Mm-hmm. And then you're putting all your eggs in one basket on Conway and we'll get a replacement. And when you're replacing the likes of Laugh, who you built your team around pace, Conway and Laugh, busy as bees up top, and we've gone for Iheanacho. I mean, I was excited by the name. And when I've read something this week and I've realised Victor Orta was even involved anywhere in any conversation, you look at the club and think you've just sold your best striker, and you've gone back and done business with Victor Orta, and you've brought a striker in who's on huge money. Absolutely, whether or not we're paying X, Y, or Z towards it, he's on huge money. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen the corner flag move more.
I'm going to jump in as well. You're saying about Iheanacho. I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? We turned down Armstrong because we couldn't afford him. What stopped us going for Armstrong and not Iheanacho? That's the bit that got me. If you want to replace like for like a bit of pace, Armstrong's got pace in abundance. Absolute pace in abundance.
Selling left wasn't the issue. I think we all knew that he was going to go. It was not getting an adequate replacement is the big issue there. And what we've seen of Iheanacho is he's nowhere near an adequate replacement, and that's that's the biggest problem. We all knew Laugh was going.
That's where I feel for him, because he had his game plan. We had 2 really busy strikers who could finish, who graft, absolutely graft. But then you've lost one. You've lost one, and for all that we can praise some of the scouting, some of the players we've brought in, the fact that we'll have known about Laugh being in that position, and the fact that we haven't had a like-for-like replacement, that's where I'm scratching my head, and I think that's where he's being dealt. He's being dealt a duff hand, but at the same time, we'll go back to what I said to you earlier on, Craig. He has to make the right decisions at the right times.
It's like selling a greyhound and replacing it with a bulldog.
That's one way of putting it. No, you're absolutely right, and that's why I refer back to that point I just made. If we're sat there, the deal's not even done for Iheanacho. He's on his way from Spain, and you get offered Adam Armstrong, pace like for like, someone nips in behind, someone that causes problems for a centre half. I mean, I'm not qualified anywhere near what the guys are in the recruitment team. I'm sorry, but I'm taking Armstrong. I'm going, cancel that flight, cancel that deal, get him in. There's no ifs or buts because we don't even have to change our game plan. We can still play exactly the same way we want you to play. He's done the same job.
He knocks the winner in at Coventry and we all go mad. We're all right.
Exactly. We all forget he's a Georgian.
Yeah, he's a genius then.
Yeah.
Get in, butter bulldog.
I'd just see on the Armstrong one though, because to be fair, I mean he's not really pulled up any trees at West Brom. I was speaking to someone today about the
3 goals, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a couple of them are penalties as well, aren't there? Yeah, well, I was speaking to someone today, and by all accounts, he just looks confident, shot to bits, Adam Armstrong. He's not really done the business. Obviously, going to West Brom, Tony Mowbray goes in there. He had him at Blackburn, and the expectation was that would just click again. And he's always done it at this level, Armstrong, but he's not for West Brom. But in terms of Boro's decision on Armstrong, it was, Iheanacho was here. He was pretty much done. He was, it was all but over the line, and Armstrong was offered very last minute, but it was on the understanding that Borough paid a huge loan fee and 100% of his wages. Now, in the end, West Brom didn't have to pay as much on that deal. I think they're paying a fraction of his wages, and they paid a loan fee that wasn't as much as what Southampton were demanding of Borough. But to do that, West Brom had to be really patient, and I think, reading the reports from West Brom at the time, I think it was 10 o'clock that deal was back on with Armstrong, 10 p.m, and the deadline was 11. And I don't know if you remember at the time, but it was like 2-3 o'clock the next day that got sanctioned by the EFL, and was said that it was, it went through in time in the end. But West Brom was sweating on that. They didn't know whether they'd got that all done in time. And from Boro's perspective, I mean, obviously with hindsight in mind, the Iheanacho deal has been, the wrong one. There's absolutely no doubt in that. And I think we all know realistically in January that Strelic was the man that Kieran Scott and the recruitment team really wanted. They have to offer up a couple of options to Michael Carrick and Jonathan Woodgate ultimately with it every time, and then it comes down to what they want ultimately. It's never a kind of dictatorship where Kieran Scott and his team say this is who we're signing, and that's that. They did want Strelic, I think that's clear, but Iheanacho was on their list as well, and Carrick could call on Johnny Evans. I think that was a big factor in it. Johnny Evans kind of give him a good reference on Iheanacho, and that's what made Borough ultimately go with Iheanacho. And in hindsight, it hasn't worked. It's clear he wasn't the right. The right profile of striker that they needed. As we've said, he's nowhere near the kind of striker that Latilaf was, and it's been massively impactful for Borough. But I think in terms of the Armstrong one, I just think it would have been, can you imagine if Borough had said, scrap the Iheanacho deal, Armstrong's better, we'll put all our eggs in that basket, but then didn't get it through in time, and we're left with nothing at all. I think that would have, the impact of that just on the overall mood of the fan base than anything else would have probably been, even bigger than the disappointment in Iheanacho. So in many respects, I think in hindsight, it's easy to say they should have done it. But I think, at the time, I think it's understandable why they didn't pursue Adam Armstrong.
So I think it's safe to say then.
I hope Carrick's deleted Johnny Evans from his mobile phone. Don't want any more favours from him.
I was just going to say, I think it's safe to say that Mr. Carrick won't be sending a Christmas card to the Evans household.
No, you're absolutely right.
Another, what I will say, I mean, it was a character reference and everything we hear about Iheanacho. And I think, to be fair, a lot of what you see from him as well, I don't think he's a profile of player who's going to run about in the manner that Latilaf does. He's not an energetic striker like that. And again, I think that's maybe a feeling of the scout and the recruitment in terms of, the way they've profiled him and the fact that they've wanted to bring him in as a Latilaf replacement. That isn't Iheanacho's game. I think there's certain parts of Iheanacho's game where, okay, he's ultimately coming in, he's been unfit, hasn't he? Hasn't even been able to move much, if we're being honest. But I think clearly there's been something there in the past that made him a Premier League striker who came through at Man City, who scored goals and won the FA Cup at Leicester. And he's just not quite that player anymore. But to be fair, everything we hear about him behind the scenes in terms of what he's like as a character, in terms of his positivity and his determination to do well for the club as well. I don't think he's a bad egg or anything like that. And it's not gone well for him. You can't knock that. But every player we speak to and Carrick and whatnot speaks about just what a positive person he is, how hard he's working, and how desperate he wants to make this work at the club. And ultimately, I know as fans we just want players to be successful and we just want them to do well for the club, and when they don't, it's frustrating. But I think there's also the human side of that as well, and he's not there picking up a wage and just not being asked, for want of a better phrase. He does genuinely want to be successful. And I think you see that in when he has had impacts in games and things like that. When he scored against Oxford, I think you could see how much that genuinely meant to him. And God, I'd love it if he went and stuck in the winner at Coventry and Borough got in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's not a bad egg. He's just a big egg. That's all. Pull of that. But I had to get an Easter reference in somehow. But no, I say that a few times when I watch him. You can see that his ideas are there. He's down to play that. I mean, if we really want to talk about something he's done, the pass he did to Conway for the penalty, the pass was brilliant. What it banged straight through the middle of the centre half. He did the same at Blackburn. Played a great ball through to Conway. Some would say he just hasn't got. I don't think he's a player that he was 6 years ago. Unfortunately, that won leagues and cups, etc. So it's just it hasn't worked. With that in mind, then obviously we're going to two massive games, two huge games that we simply have to win. There's no ifs or buts now. Do you say experiment over and just cut it and just, as harsh as it sounds, leave him out and just leave him be? Because he's for me, he's not even making the impact off the bench that you really want, which is so. I hate being harsh on players, but I don't see it anymore. I'll start with you, Craig. Yes or no?
Yeah, no, I think he's got to be in and around. I think you mentioned, his impact in the Plymouth game. Don't get me wrong, he came on and before he put the ball through that they won the penalty from, he gave the ball away 2 or 3 times before that. But ultimately he made the pass, and I don't think Borough, as a reference from Monday, have that many other options, particularly now Riley McGree's out injured again. So, ultimately I think he has to be in and around there. I don't necessarily think he's starting games now, but I think he's on the bench. And if late in a game at Coventry or whatever, you need something and you need to just get an extra man in the box, then I think he still has to be there and considered as an option.
Yeah. Okay. John?
I mean, when you've got the likes of Lenihan, who's not going to play a part, named on the bench, when you've got the two young brothers who are not going to play a part named on the bench, he's got to be part of, because he can come on, and the possibility is that he could get us a goal, that he could get us an assist. So you can't leave him out altogether.
Just playing devil's advocate, you know me. So with that being said, then we move on to Friday. Obviously, Norwich have had a manager change now. I don't even try and get me to say their manager's name. I don't know what it is. It's gone, so I don't have to remember it anymore anyway. Jack Wilshere's in charge now, so Carrick will be taking Wilshere on Saturday on the touchline first time. Coach, I'll start with you. Is that a dangerous thing to have coming to the other side? Team that's got absolutely nothing to lose, nothing to gain, ready for the some obviously for the sun lounges, ready for their holidays, but there's someone on the sidelines with a bit of an idea about him, wants to put some new ideas across. That could be dangerous, couldn't it?
In an ideal situation, I'd have preferred them not to have sacked the manager. But I'll say the same thing as I've said all season. It's about what we do. It's about how we turn up and show a bit of passion, pride, still a chance of getting to Premier League football, playoffs. We're still in with a chance, whether we think it's going to happen or not. So it's all about what we do. And like I say, it's about having a bit of pride and professionalism and putting it in. I mean, we normally do a man the match for Sheffield Wednesday. Well, for me, the man the match Sheffield Wednesday was every one of them fans who turned up and had to endure what they watched. If they turn up and perform, and I think they've given 100%, whatever it'll be. That's fine with me. I just want them to put in a performance and show a bit of grit and determination. That's all I'm asking for. Is that too much as a season ticket holder and a long-time fan? I think it's the least we should expect, and we're not getting it enough.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. That's all I asked for. I've always said if I
Can you
walk away
imagine?
from the game and we get beat
Can
1-0,
you
then fair enough if we give it all. Go on, John.
and can you imagine the build-up to Saturday if we'd have got the win on Monday? Can you imagine the build-up this week? It would have been fantastic, wouldn't it? Going into Saturday's game in a playoff place, knowing that getting a win against Norwich and you know our fate is in our own hands when we go to Coventry. But you don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes about getting the atmosphere raised for Saturday's game, but it's going to be bloody difficult after Monday. It's going to be extremely difficult. I hope it works. I really do hope that the crowd are up for it. Our last home league game of the season. I hope the crowd are up for it. But do you know what? I can understand if they're not. If some people aren't, because we've been punched into submission this season, and to be asked to get up again only with the threat of yet another disappointment hanging over us, it's a bit much to ask. But you know, I'm hoping that I can make it Saturday, and I want to be part of a good lively atmosphere. So I hope it is. I hope the build up is good, but it would have been a hell of a lot better if we had a win on Monday.
I don't want to be a doom-monger here, but if it doesn't go our way on Saturday and we're on the end of another bad result, let's be honest, we haven't played well recently, and results go against us and we're out of the playoffs, I think then you will see, Michael Carrick will see why fans were so frustrated, and I think it's got the potential to be toxic the last 10 minutes on Saturday if results have gone against us and the result on Saturday goes against us. And I think it'll make his position untenable. As brutal as it sounds, and I want him to succeed, and I want us to make the playoffs, and I want us to get promoted, I honestly think it's got potential for him to really see what at best is 50-50 split amongst the fan base. I think it could be really, really ugly on Saturday. I do. I hope I'm wrong.
We'll know by kickoff, won't we? You know, Coventry's results. So that's a big incentive.
Yeah,
it is. You're absolutely right. I mean, if the situation does turn out how Cuts has said it, Craig, and things do go wrong, and it does end up as it might do, and we're mathematically gone. Do you expect Carrick to see after this season? Do you think he'll still be in a job?
It's such a difficult question to answer. I mean, the only thing I really have to go on there in terms of, you know, kind of, if you like, inside knowledge, is you know, after that Watford game, and you know, the club stance then was just how much they wanted to back Michael Carrick, and you know, the reasons behind that in terms of him as a person, him as a character, and you know, the many positives of him, you know, being at the club and what he brings for Middlesbrough Football Club as its head coach. And, you know, I completely understand that from the club's point of view. But as Cut says, I think this season has been pretty unenjoyable and really uninspiring, if I'm being truthfully honest. And I think ultimately if they do miss out, which I'm struggling to see them not, then there needs to be some tough questions asked about what the plan is for next season, because I don't think I don't think the plan can be the same. I think it's ultimately up for the Michael Carrick to kind of present his case to stay next season and stay as the head coach. There's many positive reasons to have him. I think in terms of the way the club want to move forward with recruitment and things like that, the way they want to sign and develop young players, and how that positively influences the club from a financial point of view when selling players. I think he's a great head coach in that respect because his kind of profile attracts players naturally, and I think he's proven as a coach that he can develop players individually, which makes Middlesbrough even more of an attractive prospect for young players to come and play for the club. So I think in that respect, he's a good head coach for this football club at this moment in time. But it's never yet materialized into being, also a successful team that pushes for what Middlesbrough ultimately want to do, and that's get to the Premier League. While they're not in the Premier League, they need to develop the young players. They need to sell players on at profit to be financially sustainable and to be able to ultimately compete with, we've mentioned what the likes of Leeds and Burnley have done this season. Well, they're doing it from a £50 million advantage. Ultimately, they've got Leeds, for example, have got Willie Gnonto sitting on the bench on 65 grand a week. That's the difference, and that's what Middlesbrough are ultimately competing with. So I think there's got to be that kind of asterisk put next to it. But at the end of the day, Michael Carrick had a squad, certainly in the first half of this season, that should have been capable of doing better than it has. And I think Sunderland are the example of what Borough could and should have been. I think you look at Sunderland's squad this season, and at the start of the season, it wasn't any better, if not potentially worse, than Borough's on paper. But where Borough have underachieved, Sunderland have overachieved. And that's an indictment on Borough, and where ultimately Michael Carrick has to take responsibility in the way that he sets his team out, etc. And the in-game decisions and all the kind of things that we've spoken about many, many times that have ultimately cost Borough so far this season and could cost them in the grand scheme. So I think in terms of, I apologize, it's a long-winded answer, but in terms of his future for next season, I think the onus is on him to present a case that he can do something different next season, because I don't think Borough can go into next season with the game plan as the same, as we'll just play this kind of patient, slow build-up that allows opposition defences to get 10, 11 men behind the ball, Borough ultimately not having the cutting edge to break it down and kill games off, and then not having the backbone at the other end to keep the ball out of the back of the net. I don't think that's going to cut it. Particularly the defensive side of it. I mean, you look at Burnley and Leeds who have gone up, and again, you asterisk with the money that they've got to have the quality, but ultimately combine their two goals conceded, and Borough have conceded 10 more goals than those two teams combined. Yeah. To be successful and to win promotion in this division, you need a solid defence. And under Michael Carrick, even when it was good, when they got to the playoffs at the start, they were vulnerable defensively because of how much onus was put on attack. So I think ultimately, in terms of Michael Carrick's future, I think he's got to present a case where he proves he can build a winning team and he can put together a team that is capable of winning week in, week out in the Championship, because at the minute, the way Borough play, I'm not convinced.
Well, you look at his 3 seasons. You look at his 3 seasons. The first season, we got into the playoffs, and we were all heartbroken when we lost over 2 legs to Coventry. His second season, we didn't fare as well in the league, but we had that glorious cup run when we went to the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. So there was highlights in both of them seasons. But this season, the highlights have been limited, and it's been such a frustrating, disappointing season, considering what we all were expecting as fans at the start of the season. I'm sure we were all expecting minimum playoffs and possibly top 2. So really, his stock has fallen this season from the previous 2.
It's more than fallen for me. I've already said this to the lads. Actually, I let Cut say his point. Now he's back. Come on.
Yeah, it's a bit tongue in cheek, this, Craig. But how were them splinters? I totally get the position you're in. I'm just joking, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The thing for me as well is I'd never want to sit here and call for a manager's head.
No.
Not just because, not out of fear of, kind of upsetting anyone or anything like that, but I do always go back to that human side of it. Like, it's a human being ultimately, and in any walk of life, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to cost any person his job. I know Michael Carrick's financially stable. I know he's not going to it's not going to be a big damage to his life if he did lose his job at Middlesbrough. But ultimately, he's a human being. And so unless it was somebody who I felt was, damaging the football club to the point that it was, kind of going to ruin, I don't know, spending money that it didn't have and potentially putting the club out of business. If it was, putting the club at risk in a manner like that, I couldn't see myself ever wanting to, call for a manager to be sacked. But I think definitely there are questions to be asked over Michael Carrick's future if they don't make the playoffs. And I think definitely, he ultimately has to, like I said, kind of make a case for being manager next season, because there's big question marks hanging over him at the moment.
Yeah, just to go back to the human element of it. I know, Jacko, you put on Twitter about Tony Mowbray and could he be back at the Borough?
Oh God, yeah.
We had our own conversation about this, and he's another man who I have the utmost respect for, and I do think he's a good football man. But God, he's been through enough. He's been through a lot in his life. He's fought many battles, and I saw how some of our fans turned on him when he was manager here, and I would hate for him to go through that again. So as much as I respect the man, I hope that I hope that he can always look to Middlesbrough Football Club with fondness and not have any memories of the way some fans turned on him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'd love him back. I would, just to give Carrick a bit of a voice on his shoulders, just to give him a bit of a step in the right direction. But I mean, I said to you, but I've already made my mind up on Carrick already. My mind's made up. For me, end of this season, I think his time's up. Can't see us going forwards with him anymore. As bad as it sounds, but we've met him. We've met Carrick a few times. He's such a nice guy. He's such a chill guy. It's so weird asking someone who's talking about playing against Xavi and Iniesta in a Champions League final. He just shrugs his shoulders. He's like, "Yeah, it was all right. Yeah." You're like, are you for real? Like, wow. But yeah, I thought that's I'll get penalties for that, but that's the way I see it. I can't see him continuing with us after this season. I think we've gone as far as we can with him, unfortunately. But we move to where we are. Obviously, Norwich at home. It is retro shirt day, so if you are going to the game on Saturday, have a dig in your wardrobe, see what you can find. Bring a shirt on, and if you haven't got one, go and see Bodge at his football shirt shop in Dundas Street. Go see him. He'll sort you out with a shirt as well. But I'll come to you, John Don. Fingers crossed I do see you Saturday. Score prediction?
3-1 Middlesbrough, and Tommy Conway to score.
And I'm going to ask one more question on top of that. Do you think that'll keep us within 3 points or no points of Coventry on the final day? I think
we'll see Coventry lose at Luton. It's a tough place to go,
Very tough.
You know, all the bottom teams had decent results, so it's still very tight down there. So I see Coventry losing. So come 3:00, we'll know what we need to do, and I just hope that we can get 3 points. So I'll stick with 3-1 Borough. Tommy Conway.
There you go. Coach, same question to you.
4-1 Finners has, and I think Coventry will get beat as well.
Wow. Craig, come to you.
I'll go 2-1 Borough. I think Coventry will draw at Luton, which doesn't really change much. It'll just make Borough have to go to Coventry and win on the final day.
Is Dolly still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. 1-0 here, Nacho.
That would be superb. And do you think Coventry get beat at Luton?
As Dyer Jones, 1-0 Luton.
Yeah, that's it. Ideal. That'd be brilliant. Put that double on. That would be superb.
He's turned the video off because the wallpaper's fell down. That's why.
Yeah, that's what it is. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, 3-0 Borough. Hayden Hackney, and I do think Coventry get beat at Luton. I do think Luton, because I'll take Luton on the 49 points, which is incredible because I don't think that's still season safe, which is unbelievable in this league. But it shows how close this league is, doesn't it? So, yeah, I think we've got Coventry with some. And while I've got you, Craig, final question: do you think we're at top 6? Yes or no?
I always like to be optimistic, but I just can't see it. I can't see them going to Coventry and getting the result they need because all the evidence that this team, haven't got the mental strength to go and get that result on the final day. But I really hope I'm wrong. I didn't name a first goal scorer either. Sorry for Saturday, so I'll go Hackney.
Okay, no problem. I forgive you. Even if you were half an hour late. Don't worry. So there you go. We believe we'll take it to the final day. Will it be enough? We'll answer that next week. Craig thinks no. But hey ho. We'll answer that next week. And on that point, we are done. John Don, if you need help up them stairs, I will absolutely help you up them stairs. I will 100% do it. So I'll get you to your seat. No problem at all. Hopefully see you on Saturday.
Yeah.
Could stick to 7 pints, not 8 on Saturday. Be sensible. I'll see you on Saturday. Dally, I'll see you on Saturday as well. Craig, thank you so much for popping on. We'll have you on again in a few weeks to round up the season. Talk through all the mishaps and mistakes we've had this year. We might need you for a day.
After Wembley.
After Ian actually scored the winner at Coventry. And to you lovely people for liking, subscribing, commenting, talking through. I've seen all your comments. Sharon, I can't read any of the comments you said. I can't read that language out. And yes, thank you so much for watching us. We'll talk again next week where we will preview game 46. Whether it's a biggie, I don't know. It's guaranteed to be a talking point, isn't it? So, and if you go on Saturday, get your retro shirt on as well. Up the Borough, be seeing you.